Hi, I'm Dr. Tina Rae and I'm a consultant educational and child psychologist. I'm also a member of the advisory board for Fresh Start. I suppose what I want to talk about today is anxiety, stress, all related to the current COVID pandemic that we find ourselves having to navigate through. From my perspective, there's an awful lot that we can do ourselves to ensure that we look after ourselves well, notwithstanding the fact that underlying everything at the moment for all of us is this heightened sense of not feeling quite in control. And that can be really difficult. I think it can be difficult for a number of reasons. One, because actually that level of anxiety very often leads us to just not be able to engage in the normal everyday things that we could do in the same way. So we won't, for example, take the time to look after ourselves as much. And also heightened levels of anxiety and that sense of not feeling in control also, I think, really doesn't help us in terms of actually being able to just do our job, just get on with things and feel that we're being effective in what we do. I think as well, it can reinforce a sense of learned helplessness for us, in a sense that we feel that we just have no kind of motivation to get on and just engage in the same way that we might have done previously when we weren't experiencing this level of stress and anxiety on a daily basis. So I think for many of us, just working with this heightened anxiety means that we've got to be far more vigilant about looking after ourselves on a daily basis. I think one of the things that we can do straight away is just to really focus on what we can actually control, because we know that anxiety increased when we don't feel in control. That lack of autonomy increases levels of anxiety. And it's very easy to, switch the news on. I mean, the COVID pandemic is all over the news at the moment. What's happening in education is incredibly difficult, with kids being sent home from their bubbles, people testing positive, teachers testing positive, and people not really feeling that they can just get on and do what they normally do in a way that they feel secure. The safe base has gone, in essence, I think, for many of us. So I think rather than focus on what we can't control, we need to kind of make sure we're having a digital detox from all the stuff on the news for a start, but really begin to focus on what we can control. And we can control what goes on in our head. We can control the way in which we choose to think about things. We can also control just basic things around personal hygiene, staying safe, socially distancing, making sure that we're actually doing all the things that we can to keep us and our loved ones safe, and those that we nurture and look after or teach. So I think that it is initially about just focusing on what we can actually control in our daily lives, and just try, it's not easy, but try very hard to just bank the stuff that we can't actually control. So we can say to ourselves, this is what I'm anxious about, but then we can shelve it. Okay, and then we can engage in what we would call self-soothing, and you can go back and problem solve when you have that kind of worry time to yourself, and you can share it with somebody else. I think from my perspective as a positive psychology, there's a lot that we can also do in terms of just engaging in key strategies from positive psychology on a daily basis. So identifying just 3 very small positives at the end of each day, so that we're not going to bed in the evening with that worry head on, with that worry hat on, thinking about all the things that went wrong, worrying about tomorrow. If we have that calming music and we engage in some self-soothing activities, so grounding, that wee bit of mindfulness, whatever works for you, because all the same things don't work for each of us. We know that it has to be bespoke to us as individuals. But I think that is a useful strategy, alongside neutralizing those negative thoughts, those ones that actually aren't very often based in facts or reality, reframing them into something that's more effective. It's not turning a negative to a positive, it's turning something that's not helpful to us into something that is more true. And I think it is important to remember this. Our thoughts and our feelings are not always true, and sometimes we need to dispute them more effectively. I think as well what we can do is develop a self-care plan. So saying what we're going to do at the end of the day, the start of the day, how we're going to look after our bodies, the exercise we're going to take, the reading that we might do, the creative stuff that we might do to get an experience of flow every day. There are lots of things that we can timetable into our daily routines, or what we would call activity scheduling. And I think it is really, really important we do this and we stick to that self-care plan. And we're flexible, obviously. If we need to change it, we can do that. We can be flexible about just doing different things on a different day, for example. But I think it's important to write it down. Very often we'll make resolutions, we'll say we're going to do something, but we don't, because we've just said it. You have to see it visually on a page where you've written down, this is my well-being plan, this is my self-care plan for the day. And really remembering all the time that, you know, it's a bit hackneyed, this self-care, and you know, people can say, oh, it's a wee bit cheesy, but actually I really do believe in it. I think it's essential. But I think it has to be concrete, it has to be written down in order to be effective, and we have to review it and we have to do it, to live and breathe it. And at this moment in time, I think for any of us who are involved in the caring professions, whether that's as a teacher, a carer, a parent, someone who's working therapeutically with children and young people, this is absolutely vital. We have to look to ourselves first, because if we don't do that, then we're trying all the time to pour from these cups that are really not full. Most of them are half empty, and that's no good. We also know from the neuroscience that if we don't have self-regulated nervous systems ourselves, then we cannot possibly help to regulate children who are dysregulated, anxious, stressed out, are really hypervigilant, because what we're going to be doing if we are also mirroring that is just escalating it for them. So in order to share calm that we have to find it first in ourselves. And I've got this mantra about just find your calm, write down your find your calm plan in order to then be able to share it with the children and young people that you work with. I think as well, sometimes we need to have a little bit more self-compassion. We have to treat ourselves more gently now, particularly when times are so difficult, and just say, do you know, it's okay. It's okay to fall off the rails. It's okay I didn't get it right. It's okay I lost my temper then, or I was a bit too anxious at that moment. I think we just need to take a breath, to stop, to pause, and to actually say, do you know, it's okay. Accept that this is normal. It's absolutely normal to experience these feelings when we are so stressed and we are all having to deal with something that is just so highly, highly unusual. It's something that many of us, I think most of us, will not have experienced anything similar in terms of a level of anxiety in our daily lives. So finding your calm plan has to also be that we not only write down that plan, but we actually make sure that we regulate, we punctuate the whole day, our working day, our social, our evening time, with really regular opportunities just to self-regulate. And that can be grounding, just a bit of breathing, just that stop, your hand on your heart, you pause, you take those deep breaths. If we can start to do that and punctuate our day with it, then I think we're going to be more effective now in supporting our children and young people. And we need to be a wee bit kinder. When we're stressed like this, we are slower, and most of us will have slowed down during the last 6 months. And the way in which we process information, the way in which our memory works, will to some extent be impaired, because anyone with heightened anxiety, what happens is their working memory is compromised. So I forget things all the time. I'm having to write lists all the time. I'm only remembering the last thing that I was supposed to do, and that can get quite stressful, and it can compound the stress that I'm already experiencing. So really, really important to accept it, to accept ourselves in the moment, and have this self-compassion, and also have some time out sometimes to vent. Some of my venting will be on the rowing machine in the gym. For some people it will be rowing. For some people it will be going upstairs and screaming at the wall. Doesn't matter, as long as it's not hurting you or anyone else. Sometimes we just got to let these feelings out. If we bottle them up, we're going to get more of those feelings that we're trying to hide. So looking and learning from the mistakes that we now make, which we will continue to make on a daily basis, again, self-compassion is a really good way forward. Why didn't that go right? What could I do differently next time? How can I increase my capacity to cope? So being really solution focused. And just, you know, at the end of the day, thinking I need to find my own calm daily. I need to do it throughout the day, and I certainly need to do it last thing at night, first thing in the morning, if I'm going to be able to maintain overall my mental health and my well-being during this time. So I hope this has been a wee bit of help in what is a really difficult moment for us, for all of us. And I wish you all well.